Awareness is the foundation of every meaningful change in the mind. Before you can remove negative thoughts, you must first become conscious of them, and that begins with observation without judgment. Most people spend their lives on autopilot, allowing their minds to churn endlessly through patterns of worry, fear, doubt, and regret. These negative thoughts often operate so subtly that you may not even realize how much of your mental energy is being consumed by them. They can arise in the background like an uninvited soundtrack to your day, influencing your mood, your decisions, and your perception of reality. The first step in breaking free from this cycle is to develop a clear, intentional awareness of what is happening inside your own mind. Awareness is not just noticing that you are thinking. It is noticing the quality and content of your thoughts. It is the ability to step back and observe your mind objectively, as if you were a scientist studying a phenomenon. For example, you might catch yourself repeatedly thinking, "I am not good enough," or "I always fail." These thoughts may have been running in the background for years, shaping your self-image and your behavior without your conscious approval. By simply bringing these patterns into your conscious awareness, you create the first gap between you and the thought. This gap is where choice begins, because once a thought is fully recognized, it can no longer unconsciously dictate your actions. Developing awareness requires patience and practice. It is easy to become frustrated when negative thoughts seem relentless, or when you realize how often your mind drifts into fear, regret, or self-criticism. However, the process of observing your mind is itself transformative. Each time you notice a negative thought without reacting, you are exercising your mental muscles. You are training your brain to become an impartial observer of your own mental landscape. This is not about suppressing or judging the thought. Suppression often strengthens it, making it return with even greater intensity. Instead, awareness allows you to recognize the thought for what it is, a temporary mental event, not an absolute truth. One powerful way to cultivate this kind of awareness is through journaling. Writing down your thoughts as they occur can help externalize them, making them easier to examine. When you record a negative thought, try to identify its source and its impact. Ask yourself, what triggered this thought? How does it make me feel? How is it influencing my behavior? Over time, you may start to notice patterns, recurring themes, or specific triggers that consistently lead to negative thinking. This type of self-investigation is a cornerstone of awareness because it moves the process from vague intuition to concrete understanding. Mindfulness exercises are another effective tool for enhancing awareness. By paying attention to your breath, bodily sensations, or the sounds around you, you anchor yourself in the present moment and gain clarity about the mental narratives running through your mind. Mindfulness teaches you to watch thoughts without becoming entangled in them. For instance, you might notice a critical thought arise and label it simply as thinking, acknowledging its presence without letting it dictate your emotions or actions. Over time, this practice trains the mind to recognize negativity without immediately reacting, which is essential for creating lasting change. It is important to understand that awareness is not a passive state. It is an active, engaged process that requires intention. Your mind is naturally drawn toward negativity due to evolutionary survival mechanisms that prioritize threat detection. Therefore, without conscious effort, it is easy to become caught in cycles of worry or self-doubt. Awareness acts as a counterbalance, providing a space between the stimulus, the negative thought, and your response. In that space lies the opportunity for choice, the possibility to respond differently, and the beginning of true mental freedom. Developing this awareness also deepens your understanding of your emotional responses. Negative thoughts are rarely isolated. They are often intertwined with emotions such as fear, anger, or sadness. By observing both the thought and the accompanying emotion, you gain insight into the root causes of your mental patterns. You might realize that a recurring thought is linked to a past experience, an unresolved fear, or an ingrained belief about yourself. Awareness illuminates these connections, helping you see that negative thoughts are not random or meaningless. They are signals that point to deeper layers of your psyche that may need attention, understanding, or transformation. Another aspect of cultivating awareness involves recognizing the triggers that activate negative thought loops. Triggers can be external, such as a challenging conversation, a stressful environment, or exposure to certain media. They can also be internal, such as fatigue, hunger, or hormonal changes. By becoming attuned to these triggers, you start to anticipate the conditions under which negative thoughts arise and can prepare yourself to respond consciously rather than reactively. This predictive awareness is a powerful tool because it shifts your mental life from reactive chaos to proactive management, allowing you to choose which thoughts to nurture and which to release. Awareness also fosters self-compassion. Many people are harsh critics of their own minds, berating themselves for thinking negatively or feeling anxious. Through mindful observation, you learn to approach your mental life with curiosity rather than judgment. You can recognize that negative thoughts are a normal part of the human experience, temporary visitors rather than permanent labels. This compassionate stance reduces the internal conflict that often exacerbates negativity, allowing your mind to relax and creating fertile ground for new, more constructive patterns to emerge. As you cultivate awareness, you may notice subtle shifts in your perception of reality. Thoughts that once seemed overwhelming may lose their intensity when observed objectively. Patterns that once seemed inevitable may appear as choices, and you may begin to feel a sense of empowerment in the realization that your mind is not an uncontrollable force, but a tool you can direct consciously. Awareness, therefore, is not just the first step, it is the gateway to all subsequent steps in removing negative thoughts, because without it, any attempt at change is built on a foundation of unconsciousness. Questioning the thought is a crucial next step in transforming your mental landscape, because awareness alone does not automatically weaken the influence of negative thinking. Once you have identified and observed a negative thought, it is essential to interrogate it, to dig beneath the surface and examine its validity, origin, and purpose. Thoughts often present themselves as undeniable truths, yet most of them are assumptions, interpretations, or conditioned responses shaped by past experiences rather than objective reality. By actively questioning the thoughts that arise in your mind, you begin to break down their authority over your emotions, behaviors, and decisions. This process creates space for clarity, empowerment, and deliberate choice. Many negative thoughts carry implicit assumptions that go unnoticed unless carefully examined. For example, when the mind tells you, "I am not good enough," it is presenting a statement as fact. Yet if you probe this thought, you may realize that it is based on comparison with others, past failures, or societal pressures rather than an objective assessment of your abilities or potential. Questioning the thought requires asking critical, open-ended questions. Is this thought really true? On what evidence am I basing this judgment? Am I interpreting a single event as a reflection of my entire self? These questions challenge the mental narrative and expose the thought as a temporary construct rather than an absolute truth. Questioning also helps to identify cognitive distortions, patterns of thinking that skew reality in negative ways. Common distortions include catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, personalizing, and black and white thinking. For instance, thinking "I always fail after one setback" is a form of overgeneralization. By questioning such statements, you start to see them for what they are: exaggerated or unfounded interpretations. The more you practice this, the more adept you become at recognizing distortions in real time, preventing them from escalating into larger emotional responses. Another critical dimension of questioning is understanding the emotional undercurrent of the thought. Negative thoughts are rarely isolated. They are intertwined with emotions such as fear, anger, or insecurity. By asking, why am I feeling this way? And what triggered this emotional response? You uncover the layers beneath the surface of the thought. Often, what appears as a self-critical statement is actually a projection of fear of failure, rejection, or loss. Recognizing this connection allows you to address the root cause rather than merely reacting to the surface-level thought. Questioning the thought is also an act of empowerment because it shifts the locus of control from external circumstances or automatic reactions to conscious choice. When a negative thought arises, the habitual response is to accept it as truth and allow it to dictate mood and behavior. However, by pausing and interrogating the thought, you reclaim authority over your mental environment. You are no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in shaping your mental experience. Questions such as, does this thought serve me? Or is this belief supporting the life I want to create? Are transformative because they shift the focus from blame and victimhood to responsibility and intentionality. A practical method for questioning thoughts is the evidence exercise. Take a negative thought and examine the facts that support it, followed by the facts that contradict it. For example, if the thought is, I can't succeed in my career, list evidence that appears to confirm this, such as past mistakes or missed opportunities. Then balance it by listing evidence that refutes it, such as achievements, skills, or times when you overcame challenges. The process of weighing evidence cultivates objectivity, helping to dismantle automatic negative judgments and replace them with a more balanced perspective. It is also essential to explore the underlying assumptions behind negative thoughts. Many thoughts are rooted in deeply ingrained beliefs formed during childhood or through repeated exposure to societal messages. A thought like, I am unworthy of love, often originates from past experiences or learned behaviors rather than reality. By questioning the thought, you begin to uncover these hidden assumptions and recognize that they are not immutable truths. You start to see that the mind is capable of generating misleading narratives, and that these narratives can be reshaped through conscious attention and intentional action. Questioning the thought is not about suppressing it or pretending it does not exist. Suppression can often make negative thoughts more persistent and intense because the mind resists being ignored. Instead, questioning is a form of intellectual and emotional investigation. It involves curiosity, openness, and a willingness to confront discomfort. It is about saying, I see you thought, and I am willing to explore your origin, validity, and usefulness. This approach transforms negative thinking from a source of distress into a source of insight, revealing patterns, triggers, and areas for growth that would otherwise remain hidden. Language plays a powerful role in questioning the thought. Pay attention to the words used in your internal dialogue. Phrases like, I must, I can't, or I always often exaggerate the situation and create unnecessary pressure or self-criticism. By reframing these statements into questions or observations, you create mental space for reflection. For instance, instead of thinking I always fail, you might ask, what evidence do I have that this is true? And what evidence do I have that it is not? This subtle shift from declarative statements to questions encourages objectivity and reduces emotional reactivity. Another important aspect of questioning is distinguishing between thoughts and identity. Negative thoughts can feel like an intrinsic part of who you are, but questioning helps to separate the content of the mind from the essence of your being. A thought like, "I am incapable," is not a reflection of your true self. It is a temporary mental event that arises due to specific conditions and beliefs. By questioning the thought, you practice disidentification, recognizing that you are not defined by the negativity that occasionally appears in your mind. Finally, questioning the thought encourages experimentation with new perspectives. By examining negative thoughts critically, you open the door to alternative interpretations and possibilities. What if the failure you fear is simply a step toward growth? What if the criticism you receive is an opportunity for learning rather than a reflection of inadequacy? By consistently questioning your thoughts, you gradually train the mind to consider multiple perspectives rather than defaulting to negativity, cultivating resilience, flexibility, and a more constructive approach to challenges. Replacing negative thoughts with positive intention is a pivotal stage in transforming your mental patterns, because awareness and questioning alone do not automatically create change. Once you have observed your thoughts and questioned their validity, the mind needs a new direction, a constructive alternative that can gradually replace old limiting patterns. Negative thoughts are powerful not only because they influence emotions, but because they become self-reinforcing habits when left unchecked. If a negative thought is not consciously replaced, it tends to recur, shaping perceptions, decisions, and behavior in ways that can feel inevitable. Positive intention acts as a mental lever, allowing you to consciously redirect your energy, focus, and beliefs toward more empowering and life-affirming patterns. At the heart of this process is the understanding that the mind cannot simultaneously hold two opposing thoughts with equal intensity. When a negative thought arises, there is an opportunity to introduce a positive, constructive alternative that competes for attention and gradually takes root. For instance, if the thought, "I am not capable of handling this challenge," arises, you can replace it with a thought that reflects possibility, growth, or self-confidence, such as, "I am learning how to navigate this challenge, and I have the ability to grow stronger through it." This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending that challenges do not exist. Rather, it is a deliberate act of shifting mental focus from limitation to possibility. The process of replacing thoughts begins with clarity about your intentions. Positive intention is not merely thinking nice thoughts or repeating affirmations mindlessly. It requires conscious reflection on the type of mindset, emotions, and outcomes you wish to cultivate. The more specific and meaningful your intention, the more effectively it can counteract negativity. For example, rather than vaguely intending to feel better, you might set an intention to cultivate patience, resilience, or creativity in the face of challenges. This specificity provides a target for the mind to focus on, which is critical for rewiring habitual thinking patterns over time. Visualization is a particularly powerful tool for replacing negative thoughts with positive intention. The mind responds strongly to images and sensory experiences, often interpreting them as reality. By vividly imagining yourself embodying the qualities you wish to cultivate or successfully navigating a difficult situation, you create a mental experience that can gradually overwrite the negative narrative. For example, if the thought, "I am always stressed," dominates your mind, you might visualize yourself calmly managing tasks, breathing steadily, and responding to challenges with clarity and composure. Repeated practice of such visualization strengthens neural pathways associated with these positive states, making them more accessible and automatic in daily life. Positive intention is closely linked with emotional alignment. Thoughts alone are not sufficient to shift mental patterns if they are not accompanied by corresponding feelings. The Mind and body are deeply interconnected, and emotions serve as amplifiers for mental patterns. When replacing a negative thought, it is essential to evoke the emotional experience of the positive intention. For instance, if you are cultivating confidence, imagine the physical sensations of standing tall, speaking clearly, and feeling capable. The combination of thought and emotion creates a powerful resonance in the nervous system, reinforcing the new mental pattern at a deeper level. Repetition and consistency are crucial in this process. Negative thoughts are often deeply ingrained due to years of habitual repetition, so a single positive thought is unlikely to create lasting change. Intentional, repeated replacement is necessary to gradually weaken the old neural connections and strengthen the new ones. This can be done through daily exercises, such as setting aside time to reflect on your intentions, journaling positive alternatives to recurring negative thoughts, or practicing focused visualization. Over time, the positive intentions become more natural, gradually replacing the automatic pull of negativity and allowing your mind to operate from a foundation of possibility and empowerment rather than limitation and fear. Language plays a central role in replacing thoughts because the words we use shape the way we perceive and experience reality. Negative self-talk often employs absolute or limiting language, while positive intention relies on expansive and constructive language. For example, shifting from "I can't do this" to "I am learning how to approach this with skill and patience" transforms the mental landscape. By consciously selecting language that reflects growth, capability, and possibility, you reinforce new neural pathways and cultivate a mindset that naturally leans toward solutions rather than problems. Another aspect of replacing negative thoughts with positive intention is aligning actions with the mental shift. Thoughts and intentions are powerful, but they become fully embodied when supported by action. If your positive intention is to cultivate patience, seek opportunities throughout the day to practice patience in concrete ways, whether in interactions with others, managing tasks, or responding to unexpected challenges. The combination of intention and action solidifies the new mental patterns, reinforcing the neural circuits associated with positive states and gradually diminishing the dominance of negative thought patterns. Replacing negative thoughts with positive intention also requires a willingness to be present in the moment and observe incremental changes. Transformation does not happen instantly, and the mind may resist new patterns because it is comfortable with familiar negativity. Persistence, patience, and self-compassion are key. Recognize that each time you consciously replace a negative thought, you are exercising choice, strengthening resilience, and slowly reshaping your mental environment. Even small shifts accumulate over time, creating profound change in the way you perceive yourself, others, and the world around you. It is also important to recognize that positive intention does not ignore reality or suppress genuine concerns. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and moments of difficulty. Replacing thoughts with positive intention is not about denial, but about cultivating a perspective that allows for constructive responses, adaptability, and emotional balance. By consciously choosing thoughts that reflect growth, possibility, and empowerment, you build mental and emotional resources that enable you to navigate life with greater clarity, resilience, and purpose. Practicing mindful meditation is one of the most transformative ways to remove negative thoughts because it trains the mind to observe, detach, and redirect its attention with intention and clarity, while awareness and positive intention create a foundation for change. Meditation provides a structured, consistent practice that strengthens your ability to maintain mental focus, regulate emotions, and disengage from automatic negative patterns. Mindful meditation is not about stopping thoughts altogether or forcing the mind into silence. It is about cultivating the capacity to notice thoughts as they arise, observe them without judgment, and create space between stimulus and response. This space is where true mental freedom emerges and habitual negativity loses its automatic grip. The practice begins with attention to the present moment. Many negative thoughts are rooted in the past or future, drawing energy away from the here and now. Worries about what could happen, regrets about what has already occurred, and self-critical narratives about perceived shortcomings all originate outside of the present. Meditation anchors the mind in the current experience, using tools such as breath, bodily sensations, or environmental awareness to bring attention back to the now. This simple act of grounding creates a buffer against the compulsive nature of negative thoughts, allowing the mind to step back and observe them rather than being swept away by them. One of the primary benefits of mindful meditation is that it strengthens metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. Through repeated practice, you develop the skill of noticing thoughts as temporary mental events rather than as absolute truths or directives that must be acted upon. For instance, during meditation, a thought like "I am not capable" may arise. Instead of automatically accepting this thought as reality, you learn to observe it. Here is a thought, and it is passing through my mind. This distinction between thought and self is fundamental for reducing the power of negativity. The more consistently you practice, the more your mind becomes capable of creating this separation in everyday life, outside of formal meditation sessions, which significantly diminishes the influence of negative thinking. Mindful meditation also cultivates emotional regulation. Negative thoughts are rarely isolated. They are closely tied to emotional responses such as anxiety, anger, or sadness. By observing the body and emotions during meditation, you learn to recognize the physiological signs of negativity: tightness in the chest, shallow breathing, tension in the shoulders, or a racing heart. This awareness allows you to intervene before emotions escalate and become overwhelming. By bringing attention to the present moment and breathing through these sensations, you create a calming effect on the nervous system, weakening the association between negative thoughts and strong emotional reactions. Over time, this process rewires your mind to respond with equanimity rather than reactivity. Another essential aspect of mindful meditation is the cultivation of non-judgment. Many negative thoughts carry layers of self-criticism or shame, which amplify their intensity. Meditation teaches you to witness thoughts without labeling them as good or bad. This neutral observation reduces the mental struggle that often accompanies negative thinking. For example, noticing a thought such as "I am failing" with gentle curiosity rather than harsh judgment allows the thought to exist without controlling your mood or self-perception. The mind gradually learns that thoughts are transient events, not indicators of your worth, capability, or identity. Consistency and intentionality are key in meditation practice. Regular sessions, even if brief, create a cumulative effect that strengthens neural pathways associated with awareness, focus, and emotional regulation. Over time, meditation becomes a natural support system for the mind, providing an internal space where negative thoughts can be observed, processed, and released before they escalate. The benefits extend beyond formal practice, influencing daily interactions, decision-making, and overall mental clarity. The brain, like any muscle, responds to repeated training, and meditation is one of the most effective ways to cultivate long-term mental resilience. Mindful meditation also encourages self-compassion. By observing thoughts without judgment, you learn to approach yourself with kindness, even in the face of recurring negativity. This compassionate stance is critical because self-criticism often perpetuates negative thinking, creating a feedback loop that reinforces patterns of doubt, fear, and anxiety. Meditation provides a safe mental environment where you can practice understanding and patience toward yourself, which in turn reduces the intensity and frequency of negative thoughts over time. Visualization and guided meditation can enhance this process by combining awareness with intentional focus. During meditation, you might imagine a thought entering your mind and being gently released, or visualize yourself responding to challenges with calm, clarity, and confidence. These practices help the mind internalize positive mental states, reinforcing the principles of positive intention and making it easier to replace negativity with constructive patterns. The more vividly and consistently these visualizations are practiced, the more they shape neural pathways, creating a lasting impact on thought patterns and emotional responses. It is also important to recognize that mindful meditation is not about forcing results or judging yourself for perceived failures in the practice. Thoughts will arise, minds will wander, and emotions will fluctuate. This is entirely normal. The purpose is not to eliminate negative thoughts completely, but to cultivate a steady, observant, and non-reactive approach to them. Each time you return your focus to the present moment, each time you notice a thought and let it pass without judgment, you are exercising choice, reinforcing mental clarity, and strengthening resilience. Another significant benefit of mindful meditation is its ability to foster a sense of interconnectedness and perspective. Many negative thoughts are self-focused, exaggerating personal failures or threats. Meditation encourages a broader awareness of the self in relation to the present moment, to the body, to the environment, and to life as a whole. This expanded perspective diminishes the tendency to ruminate, allowing negative thoughts to lose their dominance and freeing the mind to focus on constructive, solution-oriented thinking. Finally, mindful meditation helps create a rhythm of reflection and renewal in daily life. It is a practice that invites regular check-ins with your mental and emotional state, providing opportunities to notice negative thoughts early, question them, and begin the process of replacement. The regularity of meditation instills discipline, patience, and a sense of personal agency, all of which are essential for long-term transformation in how you relate to your thoughts. Anchoring new thought habits through action is the crucial final step in transforming negative thinking patterns, because insight, intention, and meditation alone do not guarantee lasting change. While identifying, questioning, and replacing thoughts, along with mindfulness practices, create a foundation for mental transformation, action is what cements these changes into the structure of daily life. Thoughts, no matter how enlightened or positive, remain abstract until they are reinforced by consistent behaviors and practical application. Action translates mental and emotional insights into tangible reality, creating a feedback loop that strengthens new neural pathways, habits, and perceptions over time. Without this step, positive changes in thought often remain fragile and fleeting, vulnerable to the automatic pull of old patterns under stress or fatigue. The process begins with identifying behaviors that reflect the positive thoughts and intentions you are cultivating. If a recurring negative thought has been, for example, I am not competent at my work, replacing it with a positive intention such as I am learning and improving every day requires alignment with concrete actions that embody this belief. This might include dedicating time to skill development, seeking feedback from mentors, or actively tackling challenging tasks rather than avoiding them. The key is to choose actions that are realistic, consistent, and aligned with the new mental state, because each repeated action reinforces the belief in a way that thoughts alone cannot. Repetition and consistency are central to anchoring new habits. Neural pathways in the brain are strengthened through repeated use, much like muscles grow stronger with exercise. Every time a positive thought is paired with a corresponding action, the connection between belief and behavior becomes more durable. Conversely, neglecting to act allows old thought patterns to reassert themselves, undermining the progress made in previous stages. For instance, regularly practicing gratitude in thought is enhanced and solidified by actions such as expressing appreciation to colleagues, helping someone in need, or journaling moments of gratitude. Each act is a reinforcement of the new mental framework, creating a cycle where thought and behavior mutually strengthen each other. Another critical element in anchoring new thought habits is the intentional creation of environments that support positive behavior. External stimuli strongly influence thought patterns and mental focus. Surrounding yourself with reminders, cues, and structures that encourage the new habits makes it easier for the mind to internalize and maintain them. This could include placing motivational notes in visible locations, arranging your workspace to reduce distractions, setting aside dedicated time for reflection and learning, or engaging with communities that model and support the behaviors you wish to cultivate. By intentionally shaping your environment, you reduce friction for positive habits and create conditions where new thoughts naturally manifest in action. Accountability and social reinforcement also play a significant role in anchoring new thought habits. Sharing intentions and actions with supportive peers or mentors creates external feedback loops that reinforce internal change. Positive behaviors gain validation, encouragement, and recognition, which further solidifies the new mental pattern. Social interaction provides opportunities to practice positive thoughts in real-world contexts, enhancing both the internal experience and the observable impact of your new mindset. This dual reinforcement ensures that the transformation is not only internal but also practical, observable, and socially integrated, making it more resilient over time. Deliberate reflection on action is another essential component of this process. After engaging in behaviors aligned with new thought patterns, it is beneficial to pause and evaluate outcomes and experiences. This reflection helps to identify what worked, what felt authentic, and where further adjustment is needed. For instance, if a positive intention was to approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear, reflecting on specific situations where curiosity was applied and how it influenced emotions and results, reinforces the connection between thought, emotion, and action. Through repeated cycles of action and reflection, the mind gradually internalizes the new patterns, making them habitual and automatic. Integration of small incremental actions is often more effective than attempting drastic behavioral changes all at once. Large-scale efforts can overwhelm the system, creating resistance and increasing the likelihood of reverting to old patterns. Instead, focusing on achievable, repeatable actions allows for steady progress and builds confidence. For example, if the goal is to cultivate patience, begin by practicing patience in low-stress situations, such as waiting calmly in line or listening attentively during brief conversation. As these small actions accumulate, they anchor the mental habit of patience more deeply, gradually extending it into more challenging contexts without forcing abrupt or unsustainable changes. Action also serves to reinforce the emotional dimension of thought transformation. Thoughts and intentions are strengthened when paired with emotions experienced in real situations. Positive behaviors generate feelings of accomplishment, competence, and alignment, which feed back into the mind and reinforce the underlying belief. Conversely, avoidance of action often perpetuates negative emotions such as frustration, doubt, or anxiety, reinforcing old thought patterns. Therefore, acting in alignment with new intentions is both a cognitive and emotional anchor, linking belief to lived experience in a way that makes change more durable. Another important aspect of anchoring new thought habits is the acknowledgement of setbacks and the willingness to continue acting despite them. Old thought patterns will occasionally reassert themselves, and progress may feel uneven. This is a normal part of the process, not a failure. By consistently choosing action aligned with new intentions, even in the face of temporary lapses, you reinforce the principle that thought and behavior are under conscious influence. Resilience in action communicates to the mind that positive thought patterns are reliable, attainable, and sustainable, gradually overriding the automatic pull of negativity. Moreover, anchoring through action is amplified when actions are integrated into existing routines. The more naturally new behaviors are woven into daily life, the less effortful they become, and the more deeply they influence thought patterns. For example, integrating brief periods of reflection, gratitude, or focused skill practice into your morning routine can create a stable framework for the mind to adopt and maintain new habits. Over time, these integrated actions create a self-sustaining cycle where mental, emotional, and behavioral changes support each other, making the transformation both lasting and holistic. Transforming negative thoughts is not an overnight process, but a journey that involves awareness, intentionality, practice, mindfulness, and action. Each step builds upon the previous one, creating a comprehensive framework for reshaping the mind and cultivating a more empowering, resilient perspective. By first recognizing and becoming aware of negative thoughts, you create the critical foundation of understanding, seeing patterns without judgment, and identifying the habitual loops that limit your potential. Questioning these thoughts allows you to break the automatic acceptance of negativity, exposing the assumptions and beliefs that have gone unexamined for too long. Replacing negative thoughts with positive intention introduces a new mental direction, guiding the mind toward constructive, life-affirming alternatives that align with your values and aspirations. When paired with mindful meditation, this process becomes deeper and more sustainable as meditation trains the mind to observe without reacting, cultivate emotional regulation, and strengthen the ability to remain present despite the pull of past regrets or future worries. Finally, anchoring new thought habits through deliberate action ensures that these mental shifts are not theoretical but practical, ingrained in daily life, and reinforced through repeated behaviors, reflection, and environmental support. Together, these steps form a cohesive approach to mental transformation, where awareness, thought, emotion, and action are harmonized. Negative thoughts are not simply suppressed. They are observed, understood, and gradually replaced with patterns that support growth, resilience, and inner freedom. Through consistent practice and commitment to this framework, the mind is trained to move beyond self-limiting beliefs and automatic negativity, allowing a life guided by clarity, purpose, and the conscious creation of thought, emotion, and behavior. The journey is ongoing, yet every deliberate step strengthens the capacity to shape your inner world, cultivate a positive mental environment, and experience life with greater presence, freedom, and possibility.